What's up, everybody? I hope everybody out there is having a good week. How are you doing today, Alex?
Hi everyone, my pleasure to be here again. And yeah, it was a good weekend because of Ergo Summit.
Yeah, there's a lot of good content, a lot of videos.
Yeah, still I'm good. So yeah, had a great Ergo Summit weekend. Yeah, still listening to presentations.
Me too. I'm actually the slow week in the link. Everybody's going to ask who's the winner, when is that going to be announced. I have about 3 left to go through, and then I have to figure out how to order them, which is always the hardest thing.
Yeah, a lot of pain every time.
So everybody that's a participant out there, I'm sorry, I'm slow. I'm trying. But we had a good weekly update from the dev side yesterday.
Yeah, very intense devs chat yesterday, and yeah, more things going on. Yeah, I actually just started issuing testnet tokens and contracts for Dexia just like 15 minutes ago. So the first token was issued, and yeah, so going to deploy tokens contracts, so we'll publish details after. And yeah, actually a lot of things to publish as usually.
Yeah. So, in ecosystem news, we've got a lot coming out on testnet. I know that, Dexy, Rosen, I believe Spectrum is somewhere in their process. All I can get out of Gaza is soon. So everybody out there, I have no more information than you on that. But yeah, there's a lot moving towards mainnet.
Yeah, and for Gaza, so he just appeared yesterday on a new Sigma Nuts video.
Yeah, I heard you were on there.
Have you seen that?
I haven't yet.
Yeah, a lot of content. So yeah, it's in my playlist as well. But yeah, still had no chance to catch up with it.
Well, it's good to see you back on camera, buddy. I heard you were on the Sigma Nut thing as well.
Yeah, it will be released a couple of days after, as far as I know. So yeah, a lot of content, a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, and for Rosen, so Ergonauts, well-known community members currently testing. Right? Are you testing? By the way, have you done? Have you received tokens?
I haven't started yet, but I will.
All right. So yeah, this week, the public kind of testing started for Rosen Bridge.
Yeah, let's call it alpha, right? And then once we can bring in more, let's call that beta, I guess.
Yeah, and yeah, a lot of news, around all the projects, it seems. And yeah, so for the nodes and the protocol development EAPs, so also a lot of news. But yeah, I guess will be covered right on the upcoming Sunday video.
Yep. All right, you want to hop into the questions?
Yeah, let's see.
All right. So what do we got going on? Ben Ulmer asks, is it possible for ETH to burn the entire supply? I don't think so. I mean, that seems suicidal. What's next? Looks like Andre asks, what is the current strategy for Ergo with central exchanges when they ask for a list fee? Well, it's basically a trade-off, right? We get a certain access to markets for a certain cost, and then we have to discuss, okay, well, does that cost make sense based on the benefits of that, particular partnership. What's the liability? It kind of just breaks down to, I guess, business logic, right? And so we'll discuss that internally. And sometimes, the truth is you have some entities that, they just ask way too much. And, then we have to look at the liability of potentially creating that type of partnership. And, take the U.S. as an example, right? Right now, there's not a lot of clarity in terms of, long-term sustainability and regulatory pressure and all of that. And so we have to say, okay, well, worst case, what happens is you pay for market access that then gets rugged, right? That then gets disrupted. And one of the bigger benefits of the U.S. market that traditionally was banking rails, right? And it's shifted a lot in the last 2 weeks with, bank transfers, partners being kind of taken offline. And now ACH, is getting a certain pressure. So, I guess the end of the day, it breaks down to knowing your assumptions, right? And so we have to look at the assumption of cost and the assumption of the environment and discuss that. And, it's not something that any one person can, let's say, do. We'll have voting within the EF, we'll have discussions. A lot of the times, we try to negotiate, right? That's pretty
hard bargain every time.
Yeah.
And so for risks, we already had some unfortunate listings before, like that Chinese exchange Biki, right? So there was listing there, and a few months after it was shut down by the team because of legal pressure. So it's about a lot of risks, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of risk, and sometimes there's a lot of costs associated with that risk, right? I hate to say it, but right now, in talking to a lot of U.S. exchanges, I just tell them you're a liability. Like, that the environment you're in is a liability, and so that needs to be reflected. Otherwise, why would someone pay for uncertainty, right? That's kind of a dangerous gambit, I guess. But that's
exactly
a kind of an ongoing discussion anyway. I think for now, the most interesting thing is to sit back and watch the environment, because the environment's unstable, right? I know that this weekend there's been some more fun in terms of like SEC Wells actions being sent to Coinbase, and Justin Sun, potentially getting sued, and blah blah blah. I'm sure people are screaming about that on social medias. You can read about it. How that progresses, hard to say. Yeah.
So anyway, we are always in talks with centralized exchanges. But these days, that's about doing pretty risky bets. And also costly. Yeah.
We've always tried to be conservative, in terms of spendings, right? The Ergo Foundation is not, one of these EOS type ecosystems that, raise billions of dollars or came to market with massive, VC war chests. It's kind of been grow organically, build organically, and create partnerships when and where it makes sense. And it'll probably continue that way. Any exchanges out there that are interested in fair launch proof of work, we're in that category. So hopefully that expands as kind of things evolve. Looks like the next question is from Augustus Kent. Alex, any ideas of progress towards 6.0? I know Dexi's been a big focus of yours, and bootstrapping the YouTube snapshot, all that good stuff. But where are we in terms of 6.0?
So we had a few community discussions about what can be included. Still, we are discussing the set of possible changes and features. So let's see. So I think there will be a couple of months discussions more. So then, yeah, maybe we can finalize a roadmap and thinking about implementation and estimated deadlines. So would be good also to have some needs from the ecosystem, right? For the core protocol improvements. So layer 2 constructions or sidechain constructions, which could get benefits. There are some things to get included into the scripting language now. For example, to support more on layer 2, but yes, still, we are exploring what could be useful. And there are a lot of different proposals. Most of them are not getting support from all the developers, and then likely to be rejected after all.
Well, let's see. It's good to have that type of community discussion. I think that, if we can get more engagement, we'll put together a more clear long-term roadmap, right? And I don't think 6.0 is going to be quick. 5.0 took almost 2 years.
Yeah. So, it's always takes time, and so with more and more diverse ecosystems, so it's harder to do changes actually, because more and more actors with different interests, right? Pushing for different narratives, different changes. So let's see how it goes.
All right. It looks like the next question is from Windy Moon. Hi, guys. Have either of you been recognized in the street thanks to your fame and status in the blockchain world? Let's start with you, Alex.
Sorry, what's bank's status?
Have you ever been recognized in real life, or hey, look, it's Alex from Ergo?
Probably not. I mean, outside of specific events.
Yeah, I've been recognized for the hat, right? Somebody said, "Hey, I've mined that," and then sit down, talk to them. So what are you mining? What's your rig? That type of stuff. But crypto's kind of a small little bubble outside of conferences and whatnot. No, but I live in the mountains, right? My nearest neighbor is a couple kilometers away, so who's gonna care out here? That's kind of a beautiful thing, right? Let's see. Another question from Bill Ilmer. Do we do the Ergo equivalent of Catalyst meetings? We do, engagement on social channels. We don't have necessarily formal meetings. There is a group called Sigmanauts. That's kind of a group of community members that work in parallel to the Ergo Foundation to do whatever agenda they said, whatever marketing or support they want to do. We also have weekly engagement on Discord for development. We also have kind of community marketing channels on Telegram. So there's a lot of different ways you can engage. Catalyst itself has to do with more the spending of funds, I believe. So that's a little bit different. I know that in the Cardano side, they have this big I don't know what, ecosystem level treasury. Ergo has fundraising tools that are community oriented, but they're a little bit more specific, less, I guess, bureaucratic and more market oriented. Like if I have an idea, I could potentially go to ErgoPad, or I could potentially go to Raffle. You could even, in theory, raise funds via the auction house and some sort of, NFT that, is a convertible note or something. There's a lot of different ways that developers could potentially get funding without having to deal with one like bureaucracy. It's just more market side oriented. If you have a good idea, explain it, show why it's a good idea. And I think that then it's a matter of just choosing whatever path to market is appropriate for you in terms of funding. And, it also becomes one of those situations where people vote with their wallet, right? Essentially, if you're looking for like seed funding for a good idea, there's a variety of ways you can do that. What's your take, Alex?
So pretty much the same. So a lot of tools already. And probably it makes sense maybe to think about more, and maybe to think about tokenomics. During the DEXI hours, right? So I've considered actually, a lot, also discussed a lot with Bruno, for example, ideas in tokenomics. So maybe would be good to have some community chats, right?
Yeah.
So, actually, there are a lot of things which are doable now, right, with existing tooling and understanding how things are working. They're still not here, but maybe it's worth to discuss them at least.
No, I think that'd be a great discussion. There's a lot of people that, they build in crypto and then they kind of get into this economic theory side of, their overall supply and inflation and, distribution. And that's a whole nother animal, I guess. We should definitely, put together some sort of discussion for that. Because I think anybody, not only the project side, but maybe even, the user side would be interested in learning more. A lot of major assumptions wrapped up in that. Next question is from Hermit Crab. What is your point of view about Charles Market and Contagion Post? I have no idea what Charles Market and Contagious Post even is. So I don't know. I don't think. Do you have any idea what that is?
No idea. Is it something new?
I could assume that, it's probably about pressures in the U.S. banking system and SEC action and all that good stuff. It's created when the normal quote unquote people are starting to talk about pressure and issues in bank, that's, usually when we have kind of a more interesting, serious issue, rather than when it's kind of in like the little crypto bubble. It's interesting to watch. I can say in like the macro sense, you have Hong Kong and Dubai and other jurisdictions that are, kind of investing and opening their arms towards the crypto industry. And then in the US, we have this financial pressure in our banking system. And, they're saying, please don't use, this crazy cryptocurrency. You have to use our money. And we're going to, basically try to kind of close all the access to markets and start putting pressure on the industry because, we need your money in our system because it's not doing so well.
Another interesting thing is that some countries are accepting crypto now as legal tender, right? But I know about just two of them. So any recent developments here, I'm not quite following. Maybe.
No, I think there's only a small handful for now, but it's interesting to kind of watch, I guess, the game unfold. There's always a lot of noise around that in this space, right? And, in terms of like, I'd say on a personal level, what can I do? Not much, have popcorn and watch the show, right? And help build stuff. In terms of like, the regulatory stuff and, what's the SEC going to do? I don't know. I always kind of just look at it like, well, I never really would trust them anyway, because they have a monopoly on money. They have a monopoly on the creation of money, the distribution of money. Why would they like crypto? I've always thought that was silly that, there's this idea, oh, they're going to love it and they're going to use our blockchain. Probably not. And then you have, entities that try to do business and partner with somebody that has a monopoly, and it's probably against their interest to support these type of systems. And well, I don't know, you lay down with dogs, you get fleas, right? You talk to the SEC, you get a Wells notice. It is what it is.
Sometimes by watching the news, you understand you need to work even more, so to consume less news, actually. Right, so what was shocking to me recently? So I've posted maybe 1 week ago, or 1.5, that's Lebanese pound exchange rate crossed 100,000 LBP per USD, which is like 70 times less than in 2019 when the bank crisis started in Lebanon. Even since then, so within like 1 week or 10 days, something like that. It felt by another 20%, right? So this is insane unwrapping of hyperinflation.
Yeah, those are the best jurisdictions to actually try to get traction and adoption of crypto, in my opinion. Like, why do we care about the U.S.? We should look at places like Lebanon that have that type of pressure. And, if you're a citizen there, right, that's incredibly tough. Like, I can't imagine, like, oh, sorry, you just lost another 20% of your life savings this week, right? Like, those are the areas where I would assume that the demand for access to global markets and less more stable, predictable monetary policy is a much better selling point than going to, a well-developed first world market. And then it's just like gambling, right? In many cases. So I don't know. I've always kind of wished that, we kind of build for those type of scenarios, those type of people, and those type of situations, rather than just some rich kid in his mom's basement in in a well-developed market, right? That's sometimes I think DeFi is, I don't know, the intent is wrong, right? If we actually want real adoption and traction of these systems, we need to look at where the greatest demand is, and having that type of, just debasement and destruction of monetary policy seems like a good environment to try to offer solid tooling.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next question. How about Ergo being listed on other decentralized exchanges? Can Rosenbridge help with the integration? Will bigger DEX with other chains accept them? Let's say PancakeSwap or Uniswap. Well, one of the beautiful things about an actual DEX is you don't need permission, which it has trade-offs, right? You can look at PancakeSwap and Uniswap, and there's a ton of just absolute shit coins and scams that, pop up, and they have a variety of different ways that they'll, rug you, right? But, at least it has this concept of being, kind of permissionless. The user can create a listing pair. So, if you are able to create a token in that environment, you should be able to list it on a decentralized exchange. And if you have to go and kind of sign up and go through the listing process, et cetera, it's not such a decentralized exchange.
Yeah, so usually it should be possible to create a liquidity pool anyway, right? Then yeah, so some dexes, they are they do have something in the UI, right? Like calling it verified pair or something like that. They can just hide you from the main section of the UI or something like that. But yeah, anyway, usually you can always create a liquidity pool, right? And being popular, it will get into main section anyway within some time. In regards with getting on DEX, so as initially it will be a breach with Cardano, right? Then yeah, we can expect then Ergo will appear on Cardano DEXs. Honestly, I'm not tracking numbers there, so I don't know about volumes on Cardano DEXs. After that, Rosen will breach Ergo blockchain with other blockchains, right? So, yeah, well, it will be about, well, expansion to known dexes around, well, all the popular blockchains.
All right. Next question is from Fruhausen, who's asking latest thoughts on storage rent and its potential impact on the ecosystem short to long term. Oof, that's a big topic. Let's start with UTXO compression, right? I think that's going to be the first lesson in terms of impact on the ecosystem, where people are going to want to learn to understand and kind of minimize their UTXO footprint over time, right? That's kind of the point there, is to reconsolidate your boxes periodically. I've always thought storage rent is a fascinating idea because, you know, when you have the ability to, let's say, create native tokens, NFTs, you know, to some degree, if there's no market value, right, you're just creating additional clutter on chain. And, you know, over time, if you want to run a full node, you know, you have this expectation that you're supposed to store everybody else's data indefinitely for free. And that's kind of a terrible model, I think, where, you know, if I'm going to solo mine, why do I want to be a cloud, you know, storage service for everybody's history for free forever? I think
yeah, that's very unnatural. Economically, right? That's in every blockchain, except of Ergo.
Yeah, it's a weird assumption that, you know, suddenly solo miners are supposed to store your stuff forever for free. Like that doesn't even make sense. And then you have the tooling to add additional clutter potentially. You know, that's not a great incentive to carry the entire history of the network, right? So in Ergo, looking at that, we said, okay, we have to look at chain state as like a scarce resource, because ultimately, you know, if you just allow that to bloat indefinitely forever, who's going to want to run a full node? And then if nobody's running a full node, what happens? And, you know, you basically get hyper centralized. And I don't know. I think that's like one nuance in blockchain that a lot of projects just kind of ignore. Is this ability, like, if you want to actually run a full node, what is that going to take over time? So I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and actually, there will be a lot of interesting games. Currently, the node is not building index, right, for charging the storage rent. Honestly, I don't know whether to build it or not. So whether to make it default behavior to charge for miners, or maybe to let them be smart, right? And so do their own strategies, because there are a lot of issues, right, in building storage rent logic for a miner. Especially as miners can take tokens, right, in boxes not capable to pay storage rent. Then it's the big question, right? What to take and what to throw away, because it's also it's also could be expensive, right, to store everything for miners. So then, it's maybe miners will get smarter, right? And maybe then ERC-oriented pools, will be leading ones, right? Not just ordinary big pools, which are not paying attention to what miners do actually mine on the pools, except of very basic things.
All right.
Let's see. So actually, it seems some miners are not quite interesting, right? In that, unfortunately. So for some reason, they assume that the developers will serve them, right, with just a button to press and get more. That's maybe not very fair, right? So that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, I hope over time that, I've always hoped that the mining community kind of, evolves, takes more power over the ecosystem, acts more unilaterally and independently of the Ergo Foundation. That's why they have the tooling to adjust things on the fly, and they have kind of the ability to, vote and make changes.
Right. So so after bootstrapping with he takes a set snapshot and Nipopo. So one of the oldest issues is to provide miners possibility to use custom block assembly.
Mm-hmm.
So then they will be able to reorder transactions, right, on their own. So possible now, but with some dirty hacks, actually. So would be good to provide some method which is not as easy as in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin forks because of some design details, but will be done. So smart miners should get advantage, right? After all, that's the fair game, I guess.
All right, let's get to the next question on the list. Looks like CW is asking your thoughts on sexes and crypto banking restrictions being put in various countries, are putting in place in various countries. I'm not surprised. I've always thought at some point, financial instability would create bigger pressure on our industry. I hope that it pushes things to where people say, hey, these are peer-to-peer networks. And so they start to think in their base currency beyond the dollar, right? And, I like the Bitcoin community, at least in that mindset they have, like, hey, let's, focus on stats rather than, dollars. If you're in the dollar economy to some degree, you don't need a ramp to another currency, right? You operate with that currency, you use it as money. And so it would be nice if you had people collectively work with ERG as currency. And so then ramping isn't necessarily the focus. The focus is building an economy and building trade and, collaborating, getting stuff done. Pretty cool. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, so that was actually the very initial plan. So presented during the 2019 Asian Roadshow. The idea was is that we have digital gold like Bitcoin, right? Ergo, so proof of work currencies could be seen as a kind of digital gold if they are following some design principles, right? And then they are built on certain assumptions, right? Which could be verified, right? And then trust, and then you have basically digital gold, right? As a result, but then Bitcoin is kind of pure gold, right? But Ergo is trying to build kind of economy, right? Also a digital economy on top of digital gold. Basically, replicating the history of gold during the Silicon Roads era, right? When initially as it was dangerous, right, to transfer gold over the roads because of a lot of bad guys around. People started to create kind of paper IOUs, right? That's how our system arising. For example, but it's evolved pretty soon from simple IOUs to sometimes pretty complex IOUs, right? So basically contractual money, right, on top of gold. That's kind of Ergo idea as well, right? So to build programmable money, right, on top of digital gold. By the way, just a couple of days ago, so on Testnet Explorer, stats for gold Oracle pool based on Oracle Pools 2.0 was deployed. Now you can see price of 1 kilogram of gold in ERX. It's Oracle Pools 2.0, and it's also interesting thing, right, to compare to two kinds of gold.
You know, in terms of like the setup right now, like in the short term, sure, it's a little bit painful, but resistance builds strength, right? And so to some degree, I think you have kind of onboarded all of these, oftentimes millions of people into the crypto industry. And so they're, you know, starting to question the traditional financial system. They're starting to ask the question, what is money? They're starting to look at kind of this idea of removing trust and intermediaries. And, you know, now we have like a, I guess, harsher environment potentially, but maybe that's a good thing, right? Because there's a lot of just crazy speculative gains that people are playing to try to get more fiat, right? And that really shouldn't be the intent, I think, of alternative currency systems. I think they should be, you know, bootstrapping, economic utility. And so maybe this is a positive thing long term, right? Because it kind of puts the pressure and changes the mindset of the average user towards, kind of, I don't know, creating more useful economic purposes versus, you know, buy the dog coin and then sell the dog coin and then make more money and then buy a nice car or whatever the mindset is these days. Let's see. to do things says, do you think Ergo is security per SEC regulation? ETH moving to proof of stake seems to be considered a security. Well, we're not in the U.S. market, right? So the SEC can have fun. At this point, you have to ask the question, how solid is that as a definition, right? Do I think the SEC has the ability to classify anything however it wants to do? Sure. And then, we have our own little legal court process in the US where, let's see, right? The assumption of Ergo is, okay, if you look at Bitcoin in its early days, Satoshi basically mined about 4.5% of the supply, which, was, I guess, a way to potentially make sure the network was stable and wasn't attacked in its early days. I guess to some degrees, people could look at that as a pre-mine. Some people could say, well, it was fair and open, and so maybe it wasn't a pre-mine. But the reality is after, Satoshi did his thing, you had this entire industry build up around the crypto, let's say, ecosystem that came after Bitcoin. And that's a pain in the ass to work with, right? I'm kind of jealous of Satoshi that he didn't have to deal with exchanges and, negotiate listings. And, that puts, I guess, extra pressure, right? And I'll use an example, right? We have this foundation that promotes open source development and functionality of the protocol, and also assumes liability. And so, we had a major exchange that we were listed on, and at that point, we were just kind of a DAO. Okay, and so they said, well, if you're going to, list on our exchange, we need a legal counterparty. Right? Somebody needs to sign a contract and assume liability for this listing. And, so we're sitting around the table like, well, who's in a extradition country to, wherever this entity is, and that person has to assume personal liability, right? So this idea that, there's like a weird overlap between, let's say, the Web3 decentralized world, and then, working with partners that have their footprint, in certain jurisdictions. That's not necessarily something that you can come in and just say, hey, we're a decentralized ecosystem, because you have contracts at the end of the day. And contracts, create an assumption of liability, and then where do you put that? So, at the end of the day, not having a foundation, right, meant that I'm personally liable, which is ridiculous to think about. If that goes bad, I'm hiding in the forest, right? Now, you also have like this concept of market making requirements. Okay, so exchanges will say we want a certain amount of liquidity that are kept in motion on our order books, and you're responsible for that as the liable counterparty. And if you don't maintain liquidity on our order books, there is a certain, essentially a fine, right? And so you have to ask the question realistically. I get that there's these, projects that say, oh, we have no foundation, we have no da. You have a party that is signing these contracts. 100% guarantee you do. You have a party that's managing liquidity on exchanges. And if you don't know who they are, that is what you call information asymmetry, right? And so that party has the ability to front run the entire community. They have the ability to trade against the entire community. They're in an advantageous position because they literally control market liquidity. And so, in my mind, I always scratch my head and I'm like, if people understood that, maybe it's better to say we have this at least foundation that's liable and transparent, and their wallet is on chain. So we have an idea, what market making is. Otherwise, it's an attack vector, and that is what it is. So what does the SEC think? I don't really care. They can define things however they want. There's a bigger world beyond the US. What do you think, Alex?
Pretty much the same. So, and requirements of centralized exchanges are insane. So in addition to liquidity in order book, so I can't recall anything like that in past 1 year or 2 years. But before usually they also asked about some volume, right? So that was everywhere back in 2019, 2020. Right. So, I actually always refused, right, to guarantee any volume because, it's just scammy after all, right? So that's about volume bloating, and that's by the way, why this Justin Tron, how's that guy named? Charged, right? So for volume bloating, but maybe he was just required to do that by centralized exchanges.
Very possible.
So it's actually very weird, right? So it's like to be between the hammer and the anvil.
Yeah.
Right. So. So centralized exchanges are basically requiring you often to do very shady things, and then you can get prosecuted, right, for doing them.
Yeah, either you're going to keep your daily volume above a certain threshold, or we'll fine you, or you need to wash trade with yourself, which is probably illegal, and assume liability there. Like, that's ridiculous. But it's the state of the market, right? And then we get people that hop into the chats and are like, "Hey, your volume sucks." It's like, sorry, we don't just pad our numbers.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, it's a decent question. Well, having it listed on dexes make it hard to keep the price stable across all of the markets. So you have this concept, right, where when you have access to more liquidity, and you have your assets in a market spread across basically a larger market, it creates an incentive for traders to arbitrage between different markets, right? So if right now, if you look at let's say the decentralized world, Ergo is for sale on Spectrum. We have one market, right? And so Ergo and other tokens bridge to new exchanges, you're going to have a greater potential for I guess slippage, price differences, and so that opens up arbitrage trading, where market participants basically have a profit incentive to trade the difference, right? And so that creates kind of its own organic stability mechanism, because, well, if you can buy here for cheaper and sell it there for more expensive, you get to keep the middle. And so as you're across larger markets, the ability to arbitrage in different areas becomes more attractive. And what happens? You build volume just through that arbitrage trading. So is it harder to keep the price stable for one entity? Sure, but that's why you have larger markets, right? That's why the Ergo Foundation shouldn't be the one that's saying, hey, we're going to have kind of huge powers over market forces. We should simply let that occur. And, when there's a profit incentive there, someone will show up and take advantage of it. Anything to add, Alex?
So more markets means more market makers, right? So for Ergo, so I personally think there is some problem, right, with trading here because usually people are just buying, right, and withdrawing to the wallets, right, to hold. And from a liquidity point of view, that's kind of draining, right? All the time. Yeah, well, with time, more and more market makers are appearing, to profit from arbitrage possibilities, right, and from price movements. But yeah, still, liquidity is not that great, right? Because, usually, people are just waiting for some, radical price changes. So I actually discussed that in Sigma update video. So how to profit from providing liquidity in decentralized way, using decentralized tools, and also on centralized exchanges.
All right, next question is from FC. Says, I'm not clear on the foundation funding regarding if all funds were available from the Genesis block or releases as mine blocks. So the Ergo Foundation, was allocated a certain portion above a certain threshold of each block mine. So that means on the Genesis block, at the very beginning of the network, the Ergo Foundation had nothing. And then, the first block was hit and, it was paid a small amount. And so it accumulated over time. That way the Ergo Foundation did not receive ERG before miners, right? That way, there's at least some idea of fair distribution without work. Now, in terms of what the Ergo Foundation has delivered, relative to a lot of stuff in the space that fundraises, I think that, in terms of the costs and budgeting, I like to think the Ergo Foundation has done a really, really good job. There's a lot of projects on top of networks that come to market with a much larger war chest than the Ergo Foundation ever had. And, here we are with the network, a lot of open source tooling, a lot of, improvements to the dev environment, and we're still building. I think that in terms of the allocation from nothing and then what, the Ergo Foundation has been able to build for 4%, which there's still some remaining. I think that has served its purpose pretty well for miners to build out an ecosystem. All right, let's see. Interesting question to end with. Which is your position about meme coins? Do you consider it as just a joke, or do you apply any potential? Well, you have to ask, is it a meme coin or a meme token, right? Very basic thing where you have Dogecoin or Dogecoin or whatever, right? I guess technically it's a proof of work coin, right? There's energy and electricity that's being expended in order to create that. And what does that do? It creates a different distribution mechanism, right? So if it's like a layer one meme coin, you have to look at how it's distributed. If it's a token that's on another network, then you have to say, okay, it's kind of usually just like some social type of currency, number one. And then I would ask, okay, well, what's distribution look like? That's something that used to be really important back in the day in crypto, is this idea of okay, if you're going to receive distribution without work, that's not necessarily a good thing. And then now it's oftentimes not a focus of people. So, I would say distribution matters, and if it's a social coin, then, what is the culture of that? And, there's a lot of cartoon dogs on rocket ships that are like, yeah, this is great. And, then it's kind of evolved into this idea of scamonomics, where they're like, okay, you're gonna, stake your dogs, and then we're gonna burn dogs, and then the price of dogs is gonna go up, and you just get these crazy casino type games where I don't even know what's happening. So it's a broad area, these meme coins. It's hard to put like one label on everything. I think it's funny, so maybe the joke kind of applies. I think sometimes it's scammy and hurts people, and that's not so funny. Any potential, it's fascinating to watch how social money trends. I think that's the most interesting part. What's your take, Alex?
So actually, I think that Bitcoin was the first meme coin, right? With its magic internet money idea, right? And a promise to destroy central banks and so on. So, kind of catchy information product, right? Then, this Dogecoin. So, actually, there were a lot of Litecoin forks back then, like Feathercoin and so on. All of them are kind of dead now. Except of Dogecoin, yes. That fork found its niche, right? As kind of successful information product. In this regard, I actually like these meme coins, but it's often about complete scams, right? But I actually like to spend time and even buying sometimes Comet meme token, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty fair, right? Delivering what's promised, and it's promising to get you wrecked, right? So it's doing that sometimes. They had lotteries also to get wrecked sooner, and so kind of creative community.
Yeah. It's fascinating to look at the social side, right? I can't say there's no power in the meme coin, because you could even look at Ergo, right? And it's like, okay, well, Dogalon Mars has a higher valuation than we do, right? And it's like, it is what it is. I don't know. So on the social side, maybe they're doing something right. Who knows?
Yeah, and the Ergo community also has some own memetics, right? Like Ergonauts, that was popular, especially back in late 2020. 2021, some videos with Ergonauts, stickers, and so on. Pretty catchy stuff. And there were some catchy phrases and other memes also. And the community is always generating something. And I think this is normal, right? About those endless dog coins like Shiba Inu and they're acting maybe as a good indicator of the whole market also, right? So when you see all those nonsense, endlessly appearing dog coins skyrocketing, that means that the market is out of mind again, right?
Yeah, you know what? I think at the end of the day, they might be really good teachers, because there's a lot of people that get into crypto and they have to learn through pain, I guess. where they chase something that they get wrecked a few times, and then they start asking better questions. Like, oh, I thought I could just buy a dog coin, and then it mooned, and then that was it. So sometimes they're a good introduction. The same is even true with like NFTs. Like I think that they have done actually a lot in terms of like broader onboarding. So there's that purpose to look at as well, and maybe people join there and start asking good questions. Hope so anyway. You got time for one more question, Alex?
The last one, maybe.
Yeah, let's see what we got going on. Good question. Will we be able to stake ERG in the mixer for improved anonymity? So, yeah, where is the latest with Sigma join?
Right. So, there was work on outsourceable mixing, but that's kind of different still, right? So, for getting rewards for mixing, so Amitabh is working on some writing, as far as I know. But yeah, so unfortunately, he's super limited these days, and no other folks can continue this work, so I'm currently busy with other stuff. So yeah, let's see. So it would be highly desirable, but yeah, there are a lot of tricky details in regards with preserving privacy, avoiding privacy leaks when collecting rewards, for example, or getting rewards. So yeah, let's see. So hopefully, hopefully, yeah, I will get writing from Amitabh soon, but yeah, it's not guaranteed.
Sure. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed us taking questions for an hour. Maybe show up next time. Have a good day, everybody. I need to go get some coffee and some food.
My pleasure, everyone. So see you over the text channels.